Another Dooley Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. Okay, welcome into a special edition of another Dooley Noted podcast presented by our great friends at Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios. Today, we're doing this show early because you have championship games tomorrow and all the bowl games. And we just decided, go ahead and get it out today. We can get it up this evening or this afternoon. When I know Zach's going to get right on it. And we appreciate him doing this because this is a Sunday morning when we're doing this. But we wanted to do it and get it out there and give you a good, because look, the bottom line is you're going to be watching football all day Monday, and that's what you should be doing. And if you're not, we can't be friends. I can tell you that. Well, not all day, but you don't have to watch all the games. Personally, Oregon Liberty is not doing it for me. But will I watch it at some point? Probably. But I'm definitely watching the other games, and we'll get to those on our Swamp Games of the weekend. And we're going to talk about a couple of our sponsors who I talked to yesterday, and they're going to re-up and be part of it, as are all of our great sponsors. But I wanted to give a special mention to Titan MRI because, I mean, not only has Joe Calorio just been great to me and all this stuff, but I did want to tell this story real quick. I was going to do it as Pat Dooley Storytime, but my wife said nah. But I'll tell it real quick. So I had an MRI. They give you a disc. I was supposed to get it to the doctor. I decided, I got lazy. I mailed it. I mailed it December 16th. Never got there. So they're so great there. I called. They did another disc. I mean, made another disc for me, and I hand delivered it to the doctor. And now I'm set up for a Wednesday appointment. So I tracked it. I was curious. I went and tracked it where it went. So I mailed a disc from Gainesville to Gainesville, right? It went from Gainesville to Jacksonville to Orlando to back to Jacksonville, and it still hasn't been delivered. It's been delivered to an agent for delivery. Well, you don't need to bother anymore, guys. I've had some postal service issues lately. But the point is that the people at Titan MRI really appreciate them for doing that. Not only doing the first one and doing a great job and being totally professional, but doing another one for me. Appreciate that. We also, by the way, Thursday, Coach Spurrier will be on. We'll talk to him. Can't wait to talk to him we'll have a lot to talk about, obviously. So he's going to do a special Thursday show and then again on Monday as well. Let us get to our process service of Gainesville starting five, and I do this with great vigor. Not that I don't always do it with great vigor, but talked to Scott Hart yesterday. They're back on board. We appreciate him so much, and we appreciate Process Service of Gainesville and all the people out there who do business with them. Many of them are people who either are sponsors or have been sponsors. I know Ken Hesser has been involved. I know Chris Hand from Hand Law has been involved with them and some other people. So we appreciate that. So that's the place to go for all of you, mostly you attorneys, but that's the place to go. Process Service of Gainesville. And Scott Hart, great dude. And I know he listens to the podcast because he's quoting stuff from the last one. And it's funny because I would go to say something to him about something that I think, and I go, oh yeah, which I said on the last podcast, and I know he listens to it. And like I said on the podcast. Anyway, we appreciate Scott so much. Let's get to number one on the starting five, which I can't. Originally I had a sheet where I'd written down everything, and it was going to lead with basketball, but no, I got to lead with what happened last night. Not that I watched anything after it got 28-3, I was done. I mean, I knew Georgia was going to beat them and probably beat them really bad. I didn't think it would be 63-3. I didn't think that Georgia's second and third teamers played the whole second half on defense and still only gave up 24 yards. I know FSU had all these opt-outs. Georgia had a bunch of people opt out too. A bunch of guys got in the portal. I think they had 4 starters out for this game too. So it wasn't as bad as FSU. But again, when you're building your team in the portal and you don't get in the playoffs and you feel like you got snubbed. And I have said all along, I think they got snubbed. I do agree with them on that. Now I kind of sit there and go, I think Georgia's the one that got snubbed. But what are you going to do? And I put myself in that committee's shoes and said, all right, let's think about this again. Now you're separate. Without the result of that game mattering, the bottom line is you're not going to have that Final Four without an SEC team in it. You're not. It's not just because of ESPN. It's not just because of the SEC seems to have an influence over these kind of things. It's the best conference. We all know that. We watch it every day. This is the second best team in the conference. Just beat a 13-0 team, 63-3. All right, they had all their opt-outs and everything. I think there's too much whining about that, and there's too much whining about bowl games and everything. I'm fed up with it, but that's not the point. The point is, after the game, Kirby Smart said, if you saw that, you know why it happened, we've got to fix this. And I'm like, how? How, Kirby? How are you going to fix it? What are you going to do? You have an idea? I thought Andre Ware made a great point during one of the games I was watching when he said, let's move the portal transfer ability till after the bowl games instead of right after the season. That makes some sense. I don't know how much sense it'll be. Well, by the way, Robbie Andreu is going to be our guest today. And we'll do yes, no, way, or maybe with him. And we'll also have our Campus USA play of the weekend as well. But I don't know that there's an answer. And that's the problem. And I'm not sure Kirby Smart really wants it to get fixed, because Kirby Smart has built a culture that is based on recruiting. He gets what he wants from the portal, like ETN and guys like that. And last year, I remember when they got, I think it was Lovett and Rara. I can't think of his last name for some reason. Anyway, they got two guys from the SEC in the portal. I don't know they had a huge impact on this team. But look, Georgia, to me, we all thought Georgia and FSU were going to play a game in the postseason. We just didn't think it'd be this game, and we didn't think it'd be that kind of game. But we were looking forward to not looking forward to a Georgia FSU championship game. Well, we didn't have to worry about that. I just don't know what the answer is. Maybe Robbie does when I talk to him. But I'm perplexed, to be honest with you. I don't know where we're going with college football. Anyway, that's number one on our process service of Gainesville starting five. Number two is, and yeah, quit bitching about the bowl games. Okay, guys, just calm down. Most of the bitching comes from guys who are NFL writers or NFL broadcasters, or NFL people, I guess is what I should say. I don't know what that was. But yeah, and they go, I haven't watched one game. And I'm like, oh, then don't watch. But that's always been my take on the bowl games. You don't have to watch them. Nobody's making you watch. ESPN's paying a lot of money for these games because they want content. You can have cornhole on instead, which you did have on ESPN too during one of the games, because I was like, is there another game on two? Oh, no, it's cornhole. Quit complaining about it. Why has it got to bother people so much? Look, college football is broken. I totally agree, but it's not because of the bowl system. You saw how Dabo felt about winning up that bowl game. You saw the Arizona locker room after they won their bowl game. There are a lot of people very happy about bowl games. I remember, I think it was, I'm trying to remember if it was Stuart Mandel or not, but somebody kind of set me straight a long time ago about this. And they said, it may have been Tony Barnhart, said, look, the bottom line is the bowl games are about TV, they're about the communities, and they're about giving the players a reward. And if the players don't want to take the reward and they want to opt out, okay. What I don't get are players in the portal playing in the game. That is so weird to me. Or guys, there was a guy, I'm trying to remember who he played for. His name was BB. I'm trying to remember which team he played for. It's all running together in my mind. Anyway, he's going to be a draft pick. I don't know how high. He's a really good, one of the best guards in college football. And he played in the game. Yeah, but there not many guys are built like that. And especially when you deal with the portal and you deal with the NIL. You know? It's just is what it is. And I don't know. You can complain all you want about it, but the bowl system is not the problem. It's just, it's just an exhibition game. Danny Cannell, yeah. But it wasn't an exhibition game for these teams. It sometimes it feels like it when you're watching a bowl game and they run a list of all the guys who are not playing. It gives other guys a chance to play. I want to watch that. I don't know why everybody's got to be so negative about bowl games, but it's not up to me. It's not up to me. I think they're great. Look, if you didn't enjoy the Pop-Tart Bowl and watching that Pop-Tart get eaten, then you and I can't be friends. Like you and I think all of you and I are friends, though. All the people who watch or listen to this podcast, because we're all watching these games. We're watching some of them. Doesn't mean you have to watch them all. Doesn't mean you have to watch any. It's just they're there for you as content. I watched a movie last night instead of watching the rest of the Georgia FSU game, but because it was a blowout. That's fine. Actually, Karen and Kelsey and I watched I got to remember the name, Leftovers, Paul Giamatti. I highly recommend it. It wasn't the movie I thought it was going to be. We also, the day before, watched the Barbie movie, which was a little preachy for me, but it was a really well done movie. It was entertaining. It was funny. It was good. I get why some people didn't like it, but I liked it. It's #1 movie in America this year. So, all right, let us get to number 3 on the process service of Gainesville starting 5, and that is the games tomorrow. And the reason we're doing the show today is because you'll be watching, I would think, at 5 o'clock tomorrow, Alabama and Michigan. I am looking forward to that game so much. I think, like, I picked Michigan. I'm not going to root for Michigan. I'm going to root for Alabama. I don't want to say I'm a closet Alabama fan, but I respect Alabama. And I like Saban. I've learned to like Saban. But it feels like everybody's picking Alabama. And the first thing I go is, you guys aren't looking at what they did to Georgia and counting and thinking that has anything to do with this game, are you? Because that same team the week before almost lost to Auburn and took a miracle. I think people are putting too many eggs in their Alabama basket. I hope Alabama wins. I hate Michigan. I didn't used to hate Michigan, but I hate them now. I don't like Harbaugh. He yelled at me once. He's a cheater. Other than that, I guess he's a good guy. If you get a chance, I retweeted this so you can find it on Twitter pretty easily. And that was this guy who does these impressions, and they're really good. He does one of Saban and Harbaugh talking that is dead on. It's really good.
So is there a return to the NFL for you? I just really focused on Alabama. I got my hands full, and I can't see the future.
Really?
Huh?
You can't predict what's about to happen? You sure?
Well, I can't predict. I'd probably be back there before you, for a variety of reasons. On account of how the last stint didn't go too hot, and
then Texas Washington, which starts at 8:45, and I don't know how much. I would bet the ratings will not be great for that game, even though you have a Seattle market, a Dallas market, Austin. They might be okay, but I would think, especially if Alabama Michigan is not a close game, I bet the ratings aren't very good for the Texas Washington game. I think Texas is going to. Look, Washington found ways to win every game. This is what Billy Napier needs to learn how to do. Let's face it. Somehow I brought it back to the Gators and Billy Napier. But that's what he needs to learn how to do, is win those games that maybe you don't have your A game, but you are good enough and you find a way to win the game. That's what Washington did all year. I think Texas is just too good. We'll see. I'll root for Washington. I don't really have a problem with Texas. I guess, I don't know. I don't know. I guess I just feel like Sarkisian, they're an NIL team basically. And, I don't know. I don't know why I don't want Texas to win. I kind of like Penix and everything, but we'll see what happens. I'm picking Michigan and Texas in the final. You're going to get a chance to pick it too, because our Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks is coming up as well. So let's look. I think Jalen Milroe is going to offer Michigan something they have never seen. Not a guy that can run like that. Not a guy. The great story that he told about Bill O'Brien telling him that he needed to change positions, and he said, "What if I tell you suck?" to Jalen Milroe, and I'm like, well, what coach says that to anybody? Well, I guess they do all the time. We just don't hear about it. But we'll see what happens, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I'm looking forward to all the games tomorrow. We'll give those to you a little bit later on the Swamp games of the weekend. All right, let's get to number 4. Number 4 is the Florida basketball team and what they did yesterday, 97-72 over Quinnipiac, whose coach looked like Craig Barnes, who I used to work with. Robbie texted that up. I said, yeah, he does. It's not a compliment, but he does look like him. The team does seem to be coming together. Riley Kugel needs to make some shots, obviously. 0 for his last 19 from 3. I hope I'd like to see better body language from him, but that's kind of just, I guess, the way he is. But just sometimes seems disinterested, but he doesn't play disinterested. That maybe I'm overreacting to his body language, because he looks disinterested, but he doesn't play disinterested. And it's almost like they say, "Hey, we're going to get you the ball this half. We're going to make sure you are in a position to make some baskets," and he does. And maybe he's been waiting for conference play, and certainly Kentucky on Saturday. That game, by the way, is a sellout, which makes me not happy, believe it or not. What are you talking about, Pat? Well, there's a reason why Florida's had 9 football sellouts, and part of it is a lot of the other team shows up. FSU was a little ridiculous how many FSU fans were there. That's probably the case here, where Kentucky fans bought up every spare ticket they could get, and they're gonna be there in the O-Dome. So we'll see what happens, but that's a week away. We'll talk about that more later. Probably talk about it Thursday with Coach Spurrier. I'm sure Coach Spurrier will be there. All right, finally, number 5 on our process service of games, starting 5. In the end, Florida is going to have to win some games in the conference. Now, Florida had an unbeaten non-conference at home. They had an unbeaten December. All those are good. But the problem is, and it's not because they didn't schedule well. They scheduled fine. A lot of Power 5 games, very few games at home against Power 5 teams, and very few games at home, period. They want to play these neutral site games, and we talked about that before, because it adds to your net ranking. And I remember Jeremy Foley, the athletic director at Florida at the time, I wrote something about, boy, Florida's net ranking's too low, and it was in the non-conference. He goes, dude, net ranking all figures out. It evens out. Don't get obsessed with it. Don't get obsessed with Leonardo in December. And he was right. So I haven't looked at Leonardo. I know he's got Florida in right now, and I think they would be him, 10-3, but they're going to have to win some games in the conference schedule. That's the bottom line. The conference is really good. South Carolina's been a big surprise this year. Ole Miss has been a little bit of a surprise. And then you've also got the usual. Now, Alabama's had a brutal schedule, has lost a lot of games, but they'll be fine. And Kentucky is Kentucky. And Kentucky, I tell you what, that game could be a 105-102 game. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Florida currently is 46 in the net. I say that for you, Jeremy. But I look at the net once you get into this part of the season. So they're 46, but they were talking about this on the air yesterday, how Florida's net dropped because everybody keeps losing that they beat. Yesterday, I'm watching the Pitt-Syracuse game for a little while before the Florida game came on, and I checked back on it. Sure enough, Pitt got beat by Syracuse at home. Pitt at home. That was a good win for Florida, but I guess maybe it's not that good a win. FSU hasn't been very good again this year, and you're playing Power 5 teams, but they're not winning, so you're going to have to win, and that's the bottom line. They don't win, you got to win, and you can't go 9-9. I don't think 9-9 gets Florida. I don't think 19 and what would they be? 19 and 12. I don't think it gets Florida in. I think they got to win. They probably got to go to 11 wins in the conference, and that's going to be hard. But we'll see what they can do. Also, this was brought up, and I was going to do a whole separate segment on, but I'll just throw it in here. On Mark Wise was talking about when Texas and Oklahoma come in next year. What will the SEC do in terms of the scheduling? Will they go to a 20-game schedule? I think the league Quinnipiac's in is already playing a 20-game schedule, and there are some that do and some that don't. I think they should, but it does hurt the non-conference. But look, 68 teams get into the tournament. If you play 20 conference games, I think it's great. I think conference games are way more fun than neutral site games against, good teams. But like playing Baylor certainly helps Florida. But I do think going to 20 would be great. I think they should get rid of some of these pay games where they pay a team to come in and play. Anyway. That's my feeling, and I could change it tomorrow. You know that. All right, that's going to do it for our process service of Gainesville Starting 5 again. Thank you, Scott Hart, for being on board. We got another sponsor to thank in our third segment as well, who has come on board, but we love all of our sponsors. They make this engine run. So does Zach, and he's going to take a break right now, and we'll come back with more of another Duly Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI, from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios. Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from another Duly Noted podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Brew To Go. What gave you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place like this?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Rib Co. To Go. Come on down and enjoy it.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life, and the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
Process Service of Gainesville offers a rapid turnaround on affidavits of service for Gator lawyers locally and nationwide. Our friend Scott Hart offers immediate responses on status requests and is a member of NAPS and FAPS. And he has been a part of the community for almost 2 decades. Need service? Call Process Service of Gainesville at 407-697-9592 or email shartgators, that's G8TR, at yahoo.com. And make sure you ask about the paralegal legal secretary bonus program.
Okay, and welcome back to another Duly Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios. Our guest today is Robbie Andreu. We'll on the Big Mills Cheesesteaks Zoom line. Apparently is auditioning for a role in Full House with his with the Golden Gate Bridge in the background and the little alfalfa circle there.
I can't explain it, Pat. Jill must have done this to me. I don't know how it happened. But
It's,
like I said, I'm in the portal right now.
you are in the portal, man. I don't know what portal where it's going though. It may be going
Apparently to San Francisco.
Yeah. Well, I love San Francisco. It's a great
Yeah,
town.
me too.
Back in the old days.
I'll call you when I get there.
So I just want to get your take on all the bowl games and everything. We'll get to the FSU debacle last night, but
Yeah.
on all the bowl games, I kind of get tired of hearing all these people bitching about the bowl games. And then I watch a game and they go, oh, I don't even want to. I haven't watched 1 minute of bowl games. You didn't get to see Kentucky Clemson. That was a great game. I mean,
That was an awesome game. And most of the players, there weren't a lot of opt-outs in that game either. So it was, you got both teams basically.
Yeah, and there was I'm trying to think of what game it was. Oh, Ole Miss had one opt-out, you know. I mean, why can Ole Miss kill it in the portal, get all these players there, players don't leave? Because the knock on FSU is that because they built their team through the portal, they're mercenaries and they don't care about the school. So when they aren't in the playoff, they're out. And that could be a good argument. I don't know if that, but it's just weird.
Yeah, I see a little bit of that. But I think part of it is I think the players like playing for Lane Kiffin, Pat, and I think he makes it fun for them. And I think they want to hang around and play for their school and play for him. I think that's a big part of it. They like being there.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about him a little bit later on three things from Hesser and Kipke, but we'll get to that. But one of the games I know you really enjoyed was that Missouri-Ohio State game where the first red zone trip was in the fourth quarter for either team.
That was amazing, Pat. And the thing that I kept thinking about during the game is Florida should have beat that Missouri team. They had them down to 4th and 17. Florida, to me, they're not that far off if you go back and look at where they were and what they could have been, and a few plays away from being 7-5 or 8-4. So, you know, people are down on the Gators, but I think they're inching their way back up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, when you go back and you look at, and I was curious because I was trying to remember who Ole Miss lost to, and of course they got killed by Georgia, lost to Alabama.
Yeah,
they didn't beat anybody, you know.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, you know, yeah, they won this game, and Ohio State was a good team, but they had a bunch of guys opt out, including both corners, and if both your corners opt out against a team like
that doesn't bode well, does it? Pat? No.
It does not go well, but I've enjoyed. Like last night, Karen goes, "There's no bowl game on." I go, "No, the NFL takes over for this night," and so she goes, "I'm done. I don't want to watch that. I just want to watch the bowl games because she loves them."
Pat, you know what the Rutgers game, Miami game showed me why Florida needed to change its strength coach. I mean, you look how physical Rutgers was. Florida never played like that, the way that team played throughout that game on defense, especially. I think that's a big thing. Florida has to get more physical. I think Rutgers is a team you look up to in that regard.
Yeah, and that's amazing because when you think about it, you wouldn't think Rutgers would be more physical than Florida because Florida certainly has, is getting better players, you would think.
Yeah.
But they've got to make that happen. You're absolutely right.
They definitely did.
Another lineman goes into the portal in Mazuka, but we knew he was leaving. I mean, these guys didn't walk on senior day because they were coming back.
Yeah. And I question whether he was a good fit in the locker room anyhow, Pat. I mean, I've heard people talking that he wasn't a great fit in there. So, no big deal.
Yeah. We'll see what they end up getting. I mean, the portal thing is still closed. I'm wondering, before we get to yes, no, where, maybe, Robbie, I'm wondering if I'm sure you heard what Kirby Smart said after the game, that we've got to fix this. And my first reaction was, how? Tell me how, Kirby. I don't have an answer to it. A lot of these guys were hurt. George Travis was hurt. Tofali, I don't know if I'm saying his name right.
He was hurt too. Yeah,
was hurt. They had the guys that were hurt, so you can't. And I felt bad for Texas A&M. They have to start their third-team quarterback, and on the first play, he breaks his arm.
I know, that was unbelievable. That was bad. But you're right, Pat. There is no answer right now. I mean, it's just kind of a mess out there, and it makes you worry about the future of college football, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I said this during the first segment. Andre Ware does have one answer, and I don't know that it'll ever happen, but move the portal back to after bowl games. Don't let guys get in the portal before bowl games. Now, if they still want to come, okay, but make them sit around and stew for a while.
Yeah. Of course, those guys might opt out anyhow, so it probably wouldn't matter. So
some would, but I think they could get more guys to stick around if you did that, but we'll see.
But the bigger concern for me is NIL, Pat, because it's not an even playing field in any way right now.
No, and there's tampering and there's all this other stuff going on, and certainly different people have different rules. The NCAA is so toothless, but it's almost like this new head of the NCAA, Charlie Baker, needs to get a grip on it. You know, he needs to grab it by the neck and say, hey, we're going to solve these problems. But I don't know. I don't know that. Look, nobody is complaining about the Pop-Tart Bowl. Nobody's complaining about the Gator Bowl. I mean, there are a lot of this because, and this is the thing. Usually, you only have one game you can watch at a time in the bowl season. Whereas during the regular season, you've got 8 games on. You can, if the game gets bad, you flip it over. Nobody's complaining about how bad the game was. Anyway, I don't know. I don't have the answers. If I had the answers, I wouldn't be doing a podcast. I'd be in charge of the NCAA.
Yeah, you'd be the president or whatever, the commissioner.
I'll be the commissioner of college football. And
maybe they need to come up with a salary cap on this NIL thing, kind of like the NFL or somebody. You can only get so much.
Yeah, but then people.
But then the Supreme Court says that's not right, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the other problem I think that they have is that they're so afraid of being sued now because they got killed in the Supreme Court.
Yeah,
and they're afraid of lawsuits and everything, so they're just saying, I guess there's nothing we can do about anything. So they've almost thrown up their hands in the air. And I don't know if going to a 64-team super conference is the way to do it. I don't know that in our lifetimes we'll have this problem resolved, but
I don't think so, Pat. It doesn't look good right now, and you worry about the future of the game.
Yeah, and they keep trying to push you and me, who love college football more than anything, away. They're saying, no, don't watch it. We're going to have opt-outs and money and all this stuff. And, but we are suckers and we still watch it.
Yeah, and I tell you what they are doing, Pat. They're pushing assistant coaches to the NFL if they get a chance because they don't want to put up with this year-round like they have to do now.
Yeah, and I tell you what, the other thing that I talked about a little bit last week, Robbie, was that they my biggest fear is that since the rich keep getting richer, that the schools that are trying to come up are going to have a hard time. The schools that are trying to compete, like Florida right now, is that school is trying to get there, and it's going to be harder because Florida can't offer the same amount of money. I still can't I don't understand why, but it is the way it is. And Florida can't, is not as attractive in the portal because they have a losing team.
Yeah.
So who gets the good players? The teams with winning teams. They get.
Yeah, it's hard to get in this cycle. You can't get out of it. It's going to be, and how do you sustain it either? I mean, I think Florida's problem is they don't have like dozens of mega donors like some of these schools like A&M have.
Yeah, I don't really understand it. I again, transparency would be nice, but it is what it is.
It is, Pat.
Yeah, and some guys are going to make a lot of money out of this.
We aren't.
Some of them as much as $30,000 a month. I'm not saying
to run the football 6 times a game.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All right, it is time for our Big Mills cheesesteak. Yes, no way, or maybe. Brought to you, of course, by Big Mills Cheesesteak, where if you could go in there and say you listened or watched the Another Duly Noted podcast, free fries with your order. All right, number 1, Robbie, on Yes, No Way, or Maybe. The SEC record in the bowl game matters. Right now, the SEC's 3-3. Everybody's about at 500, to be honest with you. And I mean, Texas A&M lost with their 4th-string quarterback, and Kentucky should have won that game. But does it matter to you what their record is?
No way, Pat. It just doesn't. I mean, that they threw that stat up yesterday. I'm thinking, who cares anymore? I mean, the bottom line is who's going to win the national championship. That's what you care more about. So the records of the conferences and the bowl games to me doesn't mean anything right now because of what we talked about earlier, the portal, the NIL, all this stuff. So it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I don't even know why they bother keep. I guess they got it sponsored so they can keep doing it.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't impact anybody. So it's a big no way on that one.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. In fact, I've rooted against most of the SEC. I've learned from you. You root against SEC teams, and I would always root for them. And I would say, "Why, Robbie?" And then I think your comment was, "What has the SEC ever done for me?"
Yeah, well, exactly. Do you think people cheer for Florida that are Ole Miss fans? They don't care. So I don't care either. I was rooting hard against Auburn yesterday.
I was too, and
I
also
enjoyed that game
because I picked Maryland.
Yeah.
In my picks, and I'll get to that in a minute. But
Yeah, and Pat, I hear Auburn's throwing around a lot of money in the NIL thing, a whole lot.
That's what I've heard too. Yeah. So, but again, who knows how much? Nobody knows.
Nobody is ever going to know.
No. All right, Robbie, this is a good one for you. Number 2 on yes, no, where, maybe. Okay. As you know, Fred Taylor is a finalist for the NFL Hall of Fame. And I tweeted this out a couple days ago. If he gets in, I don't think he'll make it this year. I don't think he will. But if he does, he's eligible for the Ring of Honor. Should Fred Taylor go to the Ring of Honor?
Oh, yes, Pat, absolutely. If you're in the NFL Hall of Fame, you deserve to be on the Ring of Honor at Florida. And I mean, he was a great running back, and his senior year, he was phenomenal. You know, he helped beat FSU, undefeated FSU in 1997. So yeah, if you're in the NFL Hall of Fame, you need to be in the Ring of Honor. No question.
I think it's debatable, and the only reason I will say this is he had one great year. And he was a good running back the other years, but I mean they had 3 running backs in the championship year. And don't forget in that FSU game he also fumbled 3 times.
Yeah, he did. You're right.
But he did save the day and had a great game.
Yeah.
I hope he gets in the Hall of Fame, and if it comes up to that, I would be willing to get into a discussion with people about the Ring of Honor. But I tweeted this. I said maybe he and Urban can go in together, and I was going to put to lessen the booing, but then I said, nah, I don't want to. And Karen goes, people will know exactly what you're talking about. Believe me.
Yeah. She's right, and you're right.
It might not be a bad idea to put them both in at the same time, and that way you can, you know.
But I don't think Urban's going to get booed now, Pat. I think enough time has passed that he probably won't get booed too bad. I think, people appreciate what he did at Florida, I think, more now than they did.
Yeah, I think it's time. And I think it's time to relook at the but I've been saying this for years, relook at the criteria for it anyway. To be honest with you, if Fred Taylor is good enough to get in, he should get in. It shouldn't matter that he gets into the Hall of Fame. That's my feeling. And personally, I'm not sure Jack Youngblood should be in, but he got in the Hall of Fame. He was Florida's first Hall of Famer, so I can see that argument too.
Yeah.
Emmitt Smith went 20-14, but but he's in because he got in the Hall of Fame.
Well, I know exactly, Pat.
All right. Finally, on yes, nowhere, maybe with the great Robbie Andreu, you are ready for some golf on TV. We're starting it next week. I saw a commercial for the Masters, the first one of the year yesterday.
I saw it too.
I said, man, I'm ready. I'm ready to get to April, but we'll start in Hawaii.
Yes, Pat, I'm ready for golf. I love watching golf on TV, and it's always entertaining. It gives you one more option for your weekends on TV. So yeah, I'm looking forward to golf. Yeah, and Tiger's going to be back for some tournaments, so you look forward to that.
I was texting a lot of people yesterday. I was in a mood, and one of them was Billy Horschel, who was at the game, and if I had known he was at the game, I would have gone. And the other was Mike Loxley. I sent him a text, and he sent me one right back. Really proud of what he's been able to do up there.
Oh, he's done a great job up there, Pat.
And that's the other thing. I picked Maryland not knowing that Tua's brother was not going to play in the game. So, you make these picks, and then guys start opting out, and you're like, well, why wouldn't I have picked you if I'd known that? However,
I didn't know he was out either, Pat, till I turned the game on.
I didn't until then. I will tell you this, that right now, Drew Copeland is 6-1, and I'm 4-3.
He's kicking your butt.
I need a sweep by Iowa, LSU, and Michigan, and I'm rooting against all. No, I'm rooting for Iowa against LSU and against Michigan. So the picks are not. I'm still going to go with my gut on those picks.
Yeah.
All right. Before you go, Robbie, we're going to go ahead and play our Campus USA Play of the Weekend, which we do Usually on Mondays, we're doing a special Sunday show, but we'll do the Monday show. And here it is.
The rim, alley-oop, dunk thrown down.
Tyrese Samuel
Tyrese
getting
Samuel.
1,000
Points now for
and that
Solid
certainly
pass to Aberdeen.
is a
Aberdeen
good
lob
way
for the rim.
to get to
Alley-oop,
1,000
dunk
points
thrown
with
down
an alley-oop.
by
He
Tyrese
sure is.
Samuel.
He's a heck of a
Double
player,
figure
Pat.
points now for Reese.
Yeah, I like him.
Yeah, I like watching him play.
I think he's and I don't know. This team's a weird team. They seem to have gotten things going the right way. Except Riley Kugel can't make a three though.
He really can. It's baffling to me that he
I know. I also, I don't know about you, but his body language disturbs me for some reason. It's almost like he's disinterested in the game.
Yeah,
but
he seems not. He seems nonchalant, Pat. Kind of, like if he goes in, no big deal. If he doesn't, no big deal.
Yeah, I guess maybe I didn't notice him last year. He was that way, but I don't know. He seems like a guy who came back and is not sure he wants to be back sometimes.
Yeah,
but,
well, hopefully he comes out in his old self against Kentucky. So they're going to need that.
well, and that's the bottom line. Conference play starts Saturday, and it's going to get intense.
Yeah, buckle up, baby.
All right, Robbie, great having you. We'll take a break and come back with more here on another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Fight Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
I was driving behind a lady, and very suddenly she moved out of the way. There was a log laying in the road, and when I hit my brakes, I went on top of the log. I had 280 discs. I just haven't been the same since. Jeffrey Meldon fought for me all the way. Him and his team really went there for me. Throughout the whole lawsuit, he made sure that my bills was paid. It was never no whenever I called him and asked him for something.
Call Meldon Law right now.
Another Duly Noted podcast comes to you from the Coaches Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444. All right, and welcome back to another Duly Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios. And again, we're doing this show on Sunday morning. We're going to get it up as soon as we can get it up because we just want to give you some time to listen to it and get your picks in, which we'll get to in just a minute, before all the great games that are going to be on Monday. Thursday, we will be in studio with Coach Spurrier. That'll be a lot of fun. I can't wait for that show. And that'll be a lot of fun. And Zach's going to be there, hopefully. If he's not there, there will be a show. All right, Zach. All right, my man. You're still my man, aren't you, Zach? He cracks me up. He cracks me up because if he doesn't know your name, my man. All right, my man. All right, let's get to our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Hesser and Kipke is a Gainesville law firm specializing in the area of workers' compensation and family law. Ken and Jennifer take great pride in their one-to-one focus on each and every client they represent. Ken is a board certified in workers' compensation law by the Florida Bar, while Jennifer possesses extensive jury trial experience with a nearly 20-year background as a prosecutor. Don't believe me? Well, check out their 5-star Google reviews. Set an appointment at hklawfl.com. Or better yet, give them a call at 352-339-9920. That is Hesser and Kipke. And again, like I said earlier, we re-upped a couple of sponsors this weekend, and but we do totally appreciate all the ones that have stayed with us. I hope everybody stays with us. I do that because we love having this podcast. We love doing it. I feel like we've gotten into a good rhythm, and I think part of it is because of Zach Rothrock, who is our producer, who we have gotten into a good, what is it called? Symbionts? No, that's not the word. What is it called? Good rapport. Yeah, we definitely have a good rapport, and we're able to do this and get things done the right way, which is why we have so many great guests. Not today, because we had Robbie. I'm just kidding. We love having Robbie on. All right, Hesser and Kipke's 3 things. Number 1, I was thinking about this. I was watching the Ole Miss game, and I was rooting against Ole Miss. I got to be honest with you. And I got several texts, some of them from former players. I'm not going to say who, but there were more than one. There were several from former players going, why is Lane Kiffin not Florida's coach? And I go, is this the cattleman? And if you don't know who the cattleman is, he's this guy who calls our radio show all the time, every day, and loves Lane Kiffin for some reason. He's a Tennessee fan, but he loves Lane Kiffin. He loves all the Tennessee coaches who are not there anymore for some reason. But anyway, he loves Lane Kiffin, and he's always arguing with me about whether he should be Florida. And that Scott Strickland should be fired because he didn't hire Lane Kiffin. Well, there's a lot of people that are, I'm not saying they think Scott should be fired, but they are kind of coming around to that. Well, maybe we should have hired Lane Kiffin. Maybe they should have hired him a long time ago. And then I see them get a first down and him celebrate. And it wasn't even a big first down. And I was like, that's the biggest reason why I don't like him, I think, because it's always all about him. It's not about the team. It's not about the players. It's about him and what he has done by calling this play. And it's always been that way. But there's nothing wrong with that. Look, the bottom line is if you're a head coach in college football, especially today, you've got to screw loose. All of you, every one of you, every coach in America it's not all tightened up in there, okay? You've got to be a little bit of a lunatic. You've got to have a huge ego. You can't be egoless. And now, again, I'm not advocating getting rid of Billy Napier and bringing Lane Kiffin in. I'm not saying that at all. But I do think I'm kind of like, if that happened after this year or after next year, I wouldn't feel the same way I used to. Guy won 11 games again this year, or this year anyway. He's never good enough at Ole Miss to win big. But they're coming in here next year, and he probably will put on a show against the Gators because he's killed it in the portal. I don't think getting Princely was any giant move, but they've got a lot of really good players in the portal. But again, where would you rather go? To Ole Miss, lovely school. I'm not saying Gainesville is not better school, but we know it's a better school. There was a thing I just saw the other day that had the number of doctors who graduated from every school in Florida was number 1, and it wasn't even close. I think Mississippi State was last and that included all 16. That included Texas and Oklahoma. I think Texas was second behind Florida. Florida was second in the world, in the nation, and doctors graduated behind USC, which wasn't surprising. Florida's a better school. Ole Miss is a great place. Kiffin has a great mind. He knows how to call plays. People like to play for him. He likes to gig people. Who does that sound like? Certain coach that used to be at Florida who will be on our show Thursday. Yeah, look. I'm not saying I like him. I'm not saying he should be the Florida coach. I'm saying maybe I've been unfair to him. Maybe he is a really good coach. However, when you look at it, really didn't beat anybody this year, and they lost to Georgia. Got killed by Georgia. Got handled by Alabama. Those are their 2 losses. So, but he won. He beat LSU by 6. LSU's defense is terrible. Anyway, That's what I'm saying. And again, Ohio State, yeah, they beat Ohio State, but Ohio State had 4 guys opt out, including their 2 corners against Ole Miss. So that was never going to work out. All right, number 2 on Hesser and Kipke, 3 things. Florida did hire a strength and conditioning coach. Craig Fitzgerald was in the NFL, and he coached at South Carolina with Steve Spurrier. So we'll talk more about that on Thursday, because I talked to Coach about it a little bit yesterday about him. He really liked him. He thought he's a good coach. He thinks it's going to be it's a great hire for Florida. Well, let's see. We hope it is. I know that Florida's players don't look like other great teams, the Georgias, the Alabamas, the FSUs. They don't look like them. I think a lot of it's because they're so young and they haven't developed physically yet. But they got to get developed physically. There is no doubt about it. Like Robbie said, Rutgers pushed Miami around. Was too physical for them. Florida opens the season with Miami next year. Okay? It doesn't take a genius to know Florida better be physical in that game. So we'll see what Craig Fitzgerald is able to do. But I'm also curious, if he left the NFL, why, even before the season's over, how much money they're paying, because they must be paying him a lot. And maybe they need to take some of that money they're pouring in to all these coaching positions that don't seem to be doing well and put it into NIL. I don't know if that's possible. I see, again, this is a question that I'm not sure anybody can answer. I know it's possible. I just don't know it's probable, I guess. Anyway, we'll see what happens there. And finally, number 3 on Hesser and Kipke, 3 things. I did want to talk about the NFL game last night, even though I went to bed because I was just tired and it seemed like the Cowboys had it won, but they didn't. It turned out Lions went down the field, scored. Dak Prescott threw the ball out of bounds on a play where you're like, why would you stop the clock? And then the Lions score and they go for 2. And when they go for 2, they 2 guys come in, 2 linemen, extra linemen. One of them declares himself as eligible. The other one does not. It depends on who you want to believe. The Lions say the right guy declared himself eligible and told the referee. The referee told the Cowboys. The NFL, they had a pool reporter go down there, and he says no, that it was the other way around. That guy did not report. The other guy reported. I don't know look. Who knows who's right and who's wrong? Who knows? We know the NFL referees make a lot of mistakes. It's a hard game to officiate, especially at that level. And in the end, it probably isn't going to matter that much. Hopefully, it doesn't cost the Lions any kind of home field or anything. I don't really have a dog in this hunt, except I don't like the Cowboys, as you know. So I'm glad I didn't stay up, because if I had watched that game, I'd have been so excited. And going for 2, I do agree with that there. I think at that point, you've already won your division. You got a chance to win in Dallas. Go ahead and go for the win. You kick an extra point and get it to overtime. That used to be kind of the way I felt. And it's not about analytics. It's about feel. Like I said, they need to burn some of those analytic files. Everybody does, especially Florida. All right, that is our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Thank you so much to Hesser and Kipke. Let's get to our Leonardo's at Millhopper quick picks. You can guess what it is. Pick who is going to be in the championship game. That's all you got to do. So it's Alabama, Michigan. Pick one of them. Pick one of, I'm not even going to give you spreads. Pick Washington or Texas. You've got till 5 o'clock tomorrow. If you get it in after 5, I can't accept it because the games will have started. But that's one reason we're doing this early. We want to make sure we get a good Leonardo's at Millhopper quick picks and give you guys a chance to pick who's in the national title game, which will be next Monday. Yeah. But we'll still do a show on Monday. We can break it down. It's at 8 o'clock, so we'll be good there. So that is our Leonardo's at Millhopper quick pick. Let's get to our Adams Ribco to go. Gator of the weekend. And I know that he was also our Campus USA player of the week or play of the weekend, but I am going to make it Tyree Samuel. I could make it Will Richard. He had an unbelievable game, and I'll give it to them both. How about that? We'll give it to them both, and we can get one to Zion Pullen too. All those guys played really well. Samuel though got over 1,000 points. I think that's a nice achievement for a young man. Saved that basketball on a dunk, which we showed you earlier. And the good thing for him too is they went back and looked at some stats and made sure. And he did get a double-double because he went out of the game once he got to 1,000 and he had 9 rebounds. But they went over some stats. I don't know where it came from. Good for, but people manipulate stats all the time, all over the country. But I'm not saying they did. But good that he got a double-double. But he is our Adams Ribco to go Gator of the weekend, Tyree Samuel. And like I said, he's probably my favorite player on that team. He is what Florida has been lacking for a few years and now has a physical guy that can go toe-to-toe with people. And they're going to need him Saturday for sure. And all through basketball season. I mean, now we get to the 18-game grind, baby. And you better bring your pudding snacks. All right? So, all right, that's our Adams Rib to Go Gator of the weekend. Let's get to our Swamp Games of the weekend, Swamp Restaurant. And again, talked to Ryan yesterday. Ryan is back on board, and we appreciate him because, again, in both cases, we were just trying to get a football package together. And then I called him yesterday. I said, hey, you want to keep it going? Yes, both of them did. And they love the show, and they love what it's doing for them and what it's doing for a lot of people. We still have one spot open if somebody wants to get involved. But I think we're pretty good shape now. And I feel a lot better about it. All right. So our Swamp Games of the weekend. And I'm just going to give you what you have on Monday. You may be listening to this. You may have already, as you're listening to it, this games could have already started. But Wisconsin LSU is at noon on ESPN. I'm not even going to give you the Liberty game. I mean, the fact that Liberty's in the Fiesta Bowl just sickens me. They played nobody. And I think the committee, that's the one they got the most wrong, in my opinion. Iowa, Tennessee is at 1 on ABC. Their quarterback opted out too, Joe Milton, Tennessee's. And the young man whose name I will learn to pronounce by the time they come, or they play Florida, I'm sure, or maybe even before that, will be the starter. And we wondered if he's a guy who's getting tons of money. Everybody says $7 million. Who knows if it's accurate or not? So that game's at 1 on ABC. I don't know that it's going to be an interesting game. You're going to have a brand new starting quarterback for one team and a team that refuses to score points on the other. So it could be an 8-7 game. We'll see how that goes. But that is that the Citrus Bowl, I guess? I think it's the Citrus Bowl. And then, of course, the games, the championship games, Alabama, Michigan's 5 on ESPN, and Texas, Washington is at 8:45 on ESPN. There was a game on, there's a game on ESPN too. I think that's the Liberty, Oregon game. And again, I talked about this last week. I don't know why they can't do that more often. Have 2 games, give you a choice. One game's awful, go to the other game. I wish they would do more of that, but I also understand the way television works. So those are the football games. So I go, well, I can do the NFL games, but I mean, there's no Monday night game, and it's the usual Sunday schedule. You know who's playing. I mean, I don't have to give you those. So I said, well, I'll go get some basketball games to look at. There's no ranked unranked all week, so I just stayed away from it. We'll get back to it. But we do know that if you go to the Swamp Restaurant, you can watch all these games. I would think going to the Swamp Restaurant at noon and stay until the end of the Washington game would be a pretty good day. Might cost you a little bit of dollars, because that would be 12 hours of drinking or eating, whatever you like to do when you go watch games. But I know a lot of people will be there on New Year's Day, and a lot of people will be there on New Year's Eve too, as well as Spurs. They'll be there too. And Ballyhoo. We love them. We love all our sponsors, Leonardo's. All of them people will be showing up. I don't know if Leonardo's will be open on New Year's Eve. I'm talking about at midnight. So I would suggest, and I would bet Ballyhoo. Well, Ballyhoo maybe. I'll find out about that. Maybe we'll know Thursday, but it won't matter because New Year's Eve will already be over. You guys find your own New Year's Eve destination, but if you go to one of our sponsors, tell them you heard it on another Dooley Noted podcast, so you should go there. Okay. All right, so those are our Swamp Restaurant games of the weekend. Let's finish up with Pat Dooley's story time, brought to you as always by Eastlake Pediatrics. Mike Jordan and the great folks there. We appreciate them so much. Another sponsor that we really, really appreciate. And this is a negative, I don't want to say negative, this is a downer. And I found out about it last night. It happened Tuesday, and it happened in my town, and I didn't know about it, and I feel just awful. I shed a lot of tears last night. And many of you probably don't know who James Ray was. James Ray was a great basketball player at Jacksonville University. It was my second job out of college was covering JU basketball for the Jacksonville Journal. And James Ray and I got to be really good friends. He would come over to our apartment. My brother Jamie and I, he'd come over to our apartment all the time, and we'd hang out and listen to music and listen to Richard Pryor albums and stuff like that. We got to be good friends, but then he was a 5th pick in the draft that year. I'm trying to think of what year it would have been. I'm trying to think of 78, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, 5th pick in the draft. And the weird story about it was that Tate Slock was the coach then, and James Ray had hurt his knee in a workout. And he hit him out, so nobody could look at him and nobody could find him and everything, but they still picked him in the 5th draft. And he never really was able to do much. And he played over in Europe for a while, but he had a serious condition that it's a lung condition, and it forms tumors on your lungs. I could try to say the name, but I looked it up yesterday and I couldn't pronounce it. But anyway, in 2008, he had a transplant. They had to wait till they got somebody 6'5" that was, for the transplant because he was so tall. He was 6'9". He was 6'9", and he had a great 3-point shot and could jump out of the gym. He was one of the best players I ever covered in my life. And I'm not saying he was Al Horford and Joakim Noah and Corey Brewer, but he was close. He was that good. That's why he was the 5th pick. Unfortunately, he was not supposed to live much longer after that transplant, but he did. And he lived until Tuesday. And he died at Shands Hospital. He'd been in critical condition since November. Just a great, gentle, loving person. I'll never forget. I can't remember I just said I'll never forget, but I can't remember. I don't remember whether I called him or he called me. One way or another, after I'd gotten over to Gainesville, I'd been here a couple of years, and I said, "Man, we got to get together for lunch." I'm back. I'm living in Jacksonville. So I went up there. I drove up there because that's how good of friends we were. We went to lunch. We sat out by the river afterwards, talked for hours. And I don't know that I had very many conversations with him later because he was fighting through all the health problems he had. And I'm not good at this, and I need to get better of staying in touch with people that matter to me. And he did matter, I can tell you. He mattered so much, I didn't know he was in my hometown dying. Again, Pat, you're a bad person, okay? I get it. And I feel terrible that I couldn't go over there and offer support. Feel bad that I didn't stay in touch with him. And I'm mostly very sad that he's passed away. He was a good dude and a good basketball player. I will tell you, maybe on the next podcast, my favorite story about James Ray, which has nothing to do with all this. But his wife PJ and his son, certainly our prayers go out to them. And James Ray was a dude, man. He was a guy. They have that saying, I think Billy came up with it. I don't know if Billy invented it, but he would call a guy a jag, just a guy. This wasn't just a guy. He was a great player, and he was a great person. And I already miss him, and I should have stayed in more contact with him, and I'm sad about that. But I will try to do better with that, peeps. I promise you. All right, that's going to do it. We love to leave you on a sour note and bad taste in your mouth and make you tear up, because I'm tearing up. All right. But no, we don't like to do that. We'll tell you a more uplifting story next week on Thursday on our show. Appreciate Zach for getting up in the morning, and appreciate Robbie for getting up in the morning. Although Robbie, like me, wakes up very early in the morning because we can't sleep when you get old. For some reason, you would think when you get old you can sleep forever, right? Because you're old. No, it goes the other way. You can sleep forever when you're 22, apparently. Not mentioning names. But anyway, I appreciate Zach very much for doing this. Appreciate all of our great sponsors. Please have a great, safe New Year. Please. I might be in bed when it turns to midnight, but you never know. I might get out. But have a safe New Year. And we'll see you on Thursday with Coach Spurrier from Spurs. We look forward to it. Until then, I am Pat Dooley. I am deep. I am way back, and I am out of here.